It's time for Around the Ozarks Sports Scene, sponsored by Fast Break Sports and The Pitch. Here's your host, Scott Puryear.
Welcome into another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. I am Scott Puryear. As always, thank you for listening this week to the podcast. We always try to get entertaining and top-of-mind guests on the pod, and this week we've got one that definitely fits the bill because he is the new Director of Athletics at Missouri State University, Mr. Patrick Ransdell. Patrick, thanks for joining me today.
I appreciate it, Scott. Thanks for having me.
You betcha. Yeah, I'm excited to pick your brain on some things now that you've been here almost 3 months, and I guess my first question is, what did you know about Missouri State University before you started kind of digging in and looking to see if it was an opportunity you wanted to pursue?
I knew about a lot of the success, especially on the basketball front, from both the men and women. So I knew about that success from dating back to the 90s, early 2000s, and the last really 20 to 30 years. So I knew that there was opportunities to have success, hopefully have some success early. And I knew that there was a fan base that had supported that in the past, which told me that we may have to do some work, but we can get a lot of that fan base back, I think, and support our efforts moving forward. So those two things were a big one because I knew a lot of that stuff had been done in the past, which means I think we can replicate that in the future. Along with, if you really started to look at a lot of the Olympic sports, there was a lot of success there across the board in baseball, for example, soccer. So I think, some of those things, told me that we could have an athletic department that, wasn't focused on one or two things, but we could be focused on the totality of being an everything school rather than just a one or two sports school.
Probably know the answer to this because you wouldn't be here if it wasn't, but was it made more appealing by the fact that they'd already announced the move to Conference USA?
There's no doubt. With that commitment being made by the university that all right, we're going to invest into football, and we're going to try and make sure that football specifically can get off to a good start and be FBS. There's only 130-something of those jobs in the country, and to be now Missouri State was going to be one of those. That was extremely attractive and something that I think perked a lot of people.
Reading the background of what you did at Appalachian State as the AD for External Relations, are the markets fairly similar? When I look at Boone, North Carolina, it looks like it's kind of our version of Nixa, that type of size-wise, but it must draw from a pretty good area because for you guys to sell out that football stadium is pretty impressive.
Yeah, yes. The Boone is going to be a little bit more remote than Springfield. We were pulling people from Charlotte, Winston-Salem, Greensboro, Raleigh, a lot of the alumni, traveling hour and 45 minutes to 3 hours in for games. So that's kind of like pulling from St. Louis, Kansas City, and some other places like that. So, from that standpoint, the same, but Springfield is much, much bigger than Boone proper, or even within 30 minutes of Boone. Boone's probably 30,000-ish without students. So that having all of that right in your backyard, having 180,000 right here in Springfield, and the DMA is roughly 500,000. I think we've got even more opportunity to be able to do that. Now we've got to create a culture to where selling out games and getting students to show up, all that type of stuff that's going to be the hard part, and that's going to be the thing that we're going to have to do some heavy lifting on.
How did you do that at App State, especially with the student side?
They have been doing that for decades. So there had been some longevity to that, dating back to when they won 3 straight national championships at the FCS level. I think it was 2005, 6, 7, right? So it had been, that was really the jumping point, and then they went in and beat Michigan in 2007. And I think that kind of galvanized the entire fan base to where those 6 Saturdays, that's what they do. Those 6 Saturdays are reserved for App State football. And so that's something that we're going to have to create. And obviously with Conference USA having 2 midweek games, that kind of throws a little wrinkle in there. But those 4 Saturdays, our fan base and our alumni base need to be bought in. Those 4 Saturdays, we are all in on the Bears and filling that stadium, and then obviously keep what we're doing and expand what we're doing with basketball.
Well, I know that in football, winning is a big cure for everything, and Ryan Beard's got this thing going in the right direction. With the 8-game winning streak, 8-3 overall. What have you seen? Because I know that you've kind of been in kind of a evaluation mode or analyzing mode of everything for the last 2-3 months. What have you seen with football that you could share that, hey, you know what, next year we want to do this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you just look at it from a program standpoint, I mean, what Coach Beard has been doing, I mean, creating a family atmosphere within the program, getting kids that want to be here and are kind of bought into the way we're developing our talent. And, obviously we started the year off with 2 strong teams, in the year with 2 strong teams. So we knew we were going to make our hay, there in the middle part of the season, and they certainly produced that. From an in-game standpoint, just from an atmosphere standpoint, we've got some room to improve. I mean, I think there were times when I'd look around, we score a touchdown, and maybe there's not as much energy as what you'd see at maybe some other places. So I think there's going to be some educational components that you will see next year when we kick off, how starting with really with the students, whether it's starting with orientation, which is in May, June timeframe, and then once they get on campus in August, kind of that welcome week vibe. We're going to be teaching our students, I think, from exactly what to do, how to do it, and I think that's going to bleed over into our crowd. So there are probably going to be a lot more crowd prompts, a lot more maybe some educational process throughout the week leading up to a game. So I do think that we have a fairly novice football fan base that just, I think we've struggled at times getting the stadium full and getting people to come out to games. So we're going to have to maybe teach a little bit more on that side. When we score a touchdown, literally everyone needs to be standing up, cheering. Something as simple as that. I think is, and then we're going to add some elements. We started pricing some stuff out that are going to, be very visual, be audio, visual, and you can hear them. Things that are going to be able to help us, kind of with the atmosphere standpoint.
Are you a huge believer in marketing that you have to spend money to make money and build excitement?
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. We're going to treat this like a business, and we're going to invest in areas that are going to have a good rate of return. I think, never has there been a time in intercollegiate athletics where success has been driven more by investment levels than there is right now in college athletics. So we're going to invest, and then I expect the rate of return to be, 3, 4, 5x what we're spending. So, and that's from, maybe certain things that we invest in, that might be tangible things, and then also personnel. We're going to need to invest in personnel that has rate of return. And then as we generate more money off of that return, then we can probably invest in some areas that maybe don't have direct revenue ROI, but certainly impact our students and student athletes.
But, like with most first full-time ADs, you've got a resume of several stops. UCF, Central Florida for 5 years, Miami of Ohio, even going back to your time at Ole Miss. Do you draw a little bit from each one of those stops and things now that you finally get to implement because you're the director of athletics?
Yes. And sometimes I'm trying to catch myself at times. Not trying to do too much too fast. Because stepping into the job there 1st of September, this year's budget was kind of already baked, right? So to speak. There wasn't a whole lot of wiggle room. We were probably maxed out as it was. So being able to go into this budget cycle, January through the spring, and kind of mapping out next year, I'm really going to enjoy that because, yeah, you're right. Taking certain things that have happened at each stop, because every institution is different. What may work at Missouri State might be completely different than maybe what worked at App or at UCF or at Miami, Ohio. Everyone has their own quirks, and these things work, and these things, and there's going to be things next year that we're going to try that won't work, and we're going to adjust. So there's going to be some trial and error for a little while with some things, and so I'm looking forward to that and being able to say, all right, I get to call those shots, and let's try this, and here we go.
You look at your background, and I think it's a great hire from the standpoint that you cut your teeth on development and external relations and all the things that help pay for the new stuff, because the money just doesn't fly in from anywhere out of the sky. All the things you want to implement, somebody's going to have to raise it. Is that a strength of yours, you believe?
Yes, and I think the modern AD better be good on the external side of the house, especially with the House settlement coming down the pipe this spring, to where revenue generation is just more important than ever. And so I do. I feel like that hits into my wheelhouse, and there may be some times where we may be short-staffed and in some areas that, given my background, I can help step in and provide some direction.
When did you decide you wanted to become an AD?
Oh gosh, I think pretty much early on. Kind of finishing up being a four-year student athlete at Western Kentucky, not sure what I wanted to do. Did an internship in their athletic department for a year. The AD at the time, Wood Seelig, who's now at Old Dominion, kind of suggested, hey, look at this sports administration program at Ohio University, and it's the oldest and the best one out there. That's where he went, and he kind of helped me get in there. And kind of at that point, I think, all right, I knew I wanted to be an AD, and at that point, given my background, given my parents' background, the external side of the house is going to be how I was going to cut my teeth. And so I think pretty much once I decided to go into that program, college athletics and being around just an institution of higher education was something I wanted to do, and athletic director was going to be that goal. And here 20 years later, achieved that, and looking forward to making sure that it's a successful tenure.
Now, there are a lot of guys your age, I assume mid-40s, is that right?
Yeah, mid-40s.
Yeah. And that had that dream forever, and then NIL came along, and transfer portal, and all these things. And there's probably a lot of guys now that go, oh, heck no, I don't want any part of that. Is that just another challenge in your mind? And what are your thoughts on the way that has changed? And even at a school, Missouri State's level, just going into FBS, coming from SCS, what are your thoughts on the NIL program and how it needs to grow at Missouri State?
Yeah, we're going to have to get going on that. And I'm waiting patiently on a little bit more guidance out of the House settlement, because I think that's going to play a role in all this come April. But we're going to have to play in that game. And you're right. I mean, there's a lot of people who have exited the business, so to speak, when all of this is starting to hit. And, I don't disagree with being student athletes being able to capitalize on name, image, and likeness. I don't disagree with them participating in revenue sharing. That's probably long overdue. Unfortunately, they're for a really long time. And I think the NCAA kind of gets a bad rap in terms of, everybody just wants to blame the NCAA, and it's an easy scapegoat. But at the end of the day, like, the NCAA is a membership-run organization, which means we're the membership. Mm-hmm. So at certain times, we, the institutions, have been very, very slow on our feet to enact change. And we've let the court system dictate a lot. And I think it's imperative on us to be a little bit more proactive on a lot of stuff rather than just reactive. I think that would have saved a lot of hassle, and it would have probably a lot of this stuff would have been enacted at a lot much slower pace than what you're seeing now. If we had just been a lot more proactive early on and being able to do some stuff, but it is what it is, and we're going to adjust the best way that we can adjust. And we're going to be active in that game, and because we're going to have to be. And I anticipate generating more money, and we'll see how that impacts things in that same space.
Missouri State sits at a level that, we've seen it already. They're going to get cherry-picked. It doesn't matter the sport, baseball, football, basketball, whatever. You have a kid that develops into a star, you're going to have to fight off the wolves because here they come.
That's right.
You hear any kind of interviews now, and coaches kind of hint at tampering's just widespread right now. Are you a guy that will have your coaches' backs in that case, and maybe can you guys even call it out to the NCAA now, or is everybody just kind of shrugging their shoulder and saying, hey, welcome to 2024?
Yeah, certainly we'll always have the backs of our coaches and our student athletes, for that matter, in everything that we do. But yeah, what you're talking about is certainly not uncommon, and it's happening all over the place. And my guess it's happening even as we speak here. So we're just going to really, the NIL and the revenue sharing and all that type of stuff. For us, we really have to use a lot of it in retention. At the end of the day, we're not going to outbid someone like an SEC school for a player directly out of high school. What we can do is provide an opportunity for the people, our men and women who are already on campus, and take care of them, because most of them really enjoy being here, and they enjoy Missouri State, they enjoy Springfield, and so how can we enhance that and make sure that we keep our best talent as best we can? I think that's a lot of recruiting right now, and the talent that we're currently developing. Because it kind of hurts, when you develop somebody and they become a great player, and then they bounce out after all of that, all the time, effort, and energy that we put into them. But kind of goes with the territory these days, and but we're going to be very aggressive on trying to keep really good talent here all 4 or 5 years.
You kind of inherited a unique situation for an AD where your higher profile coaches, those sports were pretty much locked into longer contracts. Was that a good thing to walk into in your mind?
It certainly takes, it certainly allowed you to come in and kind of do more evaluation rather than, trying to evaluate a certain coach, or, I get to look at it more evaluating the athletic department.
Sure.
Where are some things that are happening on campus that can help us, that type of stuff, rather than this, that there may be a coach that's under the gun or something like that. And that, because once you go into head coaching search mode, it's all encompassing, right? Like you're pretty much blocking out the next 2 or 3 weeks and saying, I'll get to all this other stuff later. So, not having to do that, we've got our coaches kind of locked in, and the certain, at least 3, 4, 5 of our sports, and it's been great getting to know them. They, I may not have picked them, to be the head coach, but they are my head coaches now, and I'm all in on them, and I got their backs. And Coach Beard's done a great job. Beth's doing a great job. Coach Martin's doing a great job. He had 15 guys that basically are new, and we're highly, highly competitive. And I just watch his practices and can see the direction of the program. Coach Seabolt's done a great job with men's soccer. We got a 15 national seed, and advancing we get a free pass all the way to the second round of the NCAA tournament. And Coach Nelson with women's soccer. I could go on and on and on about the great coaches that we have here, and I'm looking forward to working with them for quite some time.
Do all ADs have a back pocket list? Do you have it maybe in a back drawer in your head of because you can get a call at any time, just like a kid 100%. Going to the portal, a coach. Do you all kind of have a short list in your minds of where you're going possibly?
There's no doubt about it. If I didn't have that, then I wouldn't be doing my job.
Yeah.
So, if someone could, leave tomorrow, I better be ready for that. So there's no doubt, maybe I may not be as in tune to, the beach volleyball scene, for instance, but, especially, our major kind of more high-profile sports, there's no doubt about it. If I'm not ready for that, then I'm failing at my job.
How much work has to be done between now and next fall in terms of the branding for CUSA and signage and all that? Yeah.
I mean, we're going to need to sand all of our courts and repaint them. We got some turf things at football. Think of all the logos that are scattered throughout all of our venues. I've got a master list of everything that kind of needs to happen, and there's going to be a lot of work being done, really February, March, all the way through August to get us ready for all of our venues and to be ready to move into a new conference. It's a pretty big lift that if people weren't tracking on that, I mean that is a 6, potentially 7-figure effort that we're going to be undergoing this spring and summer.
And if I ask you the greatest challenge in your mind the next 3 to 5 years, it's probably going to be raising the money, isn't it?
It's going to be, yes, generating the revenue that we need so that we can continue to advance this program. And, whether that's facilities, whether that's operating revenue, NIL, the whole 9 yards. I mean, now we've got more buckets to fill than ever, but we'll find a way to do it, and we'll be successful.
Tell us about Patrick Ransdell, where you grew up. You said you played baseball at Western Kentucky. Were you a multi-sport kid growing up?
Oh, growing up, 100%. Unfortunately, these days, there's a lot less multi-sport athletes, which drives me absolutely bonkers. And I see it with my son and his baseball. And, if you're not doing that 12 months a year now, you almost feel like you're falling behind everybody else. Which is really frustrating because I played soccer, baseball, basketball. I kind of got into golf a little bit toward the end of high school. So there was a lot of stuff that I was involved in, and then played more stuff, before high school. But it's a little bit unfortunate, the youth demographics today. It's just like you got to be all in on one sport, and I think that's a disservice to our kids. But I grew up in Clemson, South Carolina, so kind of grew up around that whole college athletic environment, and was played multiple sports and loved my time there. And I probably wouldn't have wished to grow up anywhere else because it was a fantastic place to grow up. Then we went to Western Kentucky, Ohio University for grad school, and off we go. So that's kind of, I got a wife she hadn't entered the transfer portal up to this point, and so with me dragging her all over the place. She kind of knew, obviously, what she was getting into a long time ago, but we actually started dating in high school. So we've been together since she was 16 and I was 17. So we've been together a while and got 2 kids, 12 and 16. My daughter plays tennis, among other things, and my son plays baseball. And so they're excited about coming here. They won't come here probably till after the school year. In June, but excited to get them here because this will be the longest we've gone doing the whole long distance thing. And but normally it's only about 6 months at the latest, but this one's going to end up being born about 9. So it'll be a challenge, but looking forward to getting back there Thanksgiving.
2 questions. What do you like to do in your spare time, and do you have enough NIL money to keep her?
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I'm going to have to fend off everybody else. But yes, I mean, I think we've got, we're excited just to get them here, and it's just, with me having to be able to be here and dive into this job, that it was what it was, and I'm just excited to be able to go see them for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and then we'll figure out the spring because I'll need to get back and watch him play baseball a little bit. So there may be some more days on the road this spring that maybe didn't exist this fall, but we'll figure it out.
And you said you're a golfer?
I'm a golfer, yeah. I love to golf. I've gotten into tennis a little bit with my daughter, but she's probably to the point where now she certainly is going to take old dad and take him to the cleaners. But love to golf, and then We love to travel, me and my wife, and if we can figure out some good stuff. We went to Alaska. Actually, I was preparing for this job while on a family trip to Alaska. So I would actually wake up at 4 a.m. local time because, the time difference, that wasn't like terribly early for me, at least to my body clock. And then I'd work for 2 or 3 hours kind of preparing for the interview I knew was coming up, and then would do Alaska stuff and kind of repeat and rinse that whole week. That was kind of what I was doing the week before the interview. So love to travel too.
Have you discovered the legend that is Brett Dunn on the golf course yet?
So I have not gotten to play. I've heard of this legend.
Yeah.
From
him.
I've not gotten to play with him. From him, yes. From him, and then if you go into his office, he's got like trophies and stuff. So I don't know if he just went to BJ's Trophies and paid for them, or if he actually earned them.
They are a sponsor. That's part of the deal, I think. Trophies for Brent's office. Yeah. So.
That's right. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to playing with him. But this fall, man, I have not. Actually, last Sunday was the first day since I've been here where I didn't have something going on. So but I'll figure out some more time to get out and play some golf maybe this spring.
Very good. Patrick, thank you for your time. It was a pleasure, and best of luck to you this first year with the Bears.
Thanks a lot. I'll be happy to come back anytime.
Thank you. Closing segment in 3, 2, 1. That's going to do it for another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. As always, appreciate you tuning in. Our thanks to Patrick Ransdell, taking time from his to-do list of about 1 million things at Missouri State before the move to Conference USA next year. So really enjoyed him giving us that time to kind of pick his brain a little bit. Big thanks to our two sponsors, Fast Break Sports and The Pitch. Of course, Fast Break Sports over on South Campbell, just south of Campbell and Battlefield. We're going to be there next Tuesday taping an interview with Wyatt Vincent, the Missouri State baseball signee, Nixa standout, wide receiver in football, basketball guard, and a Division I baseball player for the Bears starting next year. So we're going to talk to Wyatt. He is a big-time collector of cards for many years, so we're going to kind of combine two subjects there with Wyatt Vincent next Tuesday for next week's podcast. We wrap things up with our What to Watch at The Pitch. Of course, The Pitch is the great restaurant in the Southern Hills Shopping Center on East Sunshine. Pizzas, calzones, all kinds of sandwiches, cold beverages, a great atmosphere. It's all at The Pitch. Go by and watch these things there. Of course, the first one, high school football playoff games. We're in the state quarterfinals now. Big ones throughout the area. I know 2 on the radar. Nixa at Lee Summit North on Friday as the Eagles try to remain unbeaten. And then Republic plays Jeff City Elias coming in. That'll be a dandy. You can watch those on mshsaa.tv, Misha TV. It's a pay-per-view setup there. Missouri State football, they finished their season on Saturday at 2 p.m. kickoff. South Dakota State, Coach Ryan Beard, as we talked with Patrick there, had a great year, 8-3 overall, had an 8-game win streak snapped, ran into a buzzsaw that was the number 1 team in the country, North Dakota State, 59-21 on Saturday up in the Fargo Dome. But a great season for the Bears and something to build on as they go into Conference USA. That is an ESPN Plus game at 2 o'clock, or go on over to Plaster Sports Complex, catch their last game of the season live. And then finally on Sunday, the Chiefs trying to bounce back from their first loss of the season at Buffalo this past Sunday. They are at Carolina to take on the Panthers in a noon kickoff on Fox. That's going to do it. As always, appreciate you listening. We'll see you next week on Around the Ozarks Sports Team.